You feel it long before you can explain it. Life asks more of you now, yet seems to give less back in return. The hours you trade feel thinner, the rewards feel smaller, and the distance between effort and security keeps widening. What once felt steady now feels conditional. What once felt earned now feels temporary. Nothing dramatic happened. No single moment where everything broke. Things simply stopped working the way they used to. You did what was expected. You planned, you adjusted, you stayed responsible. You followed the sequence that was supposed to lead somewhere. Education, work, consistency, patience. And still, the ground kept shifting beneath your feet. This is the part no one prepares you for. The quiet realization that playing by the rules no longer guarantees forward motion. Not collapse, not failure, just stagnation disguised as stability. You notice it in small ways at first. Money that stretches less. Decisions that feel tighter. A future that takes more effort to picture clearly. Margins that once existed quietly disappear. Buffers shrink without warning. Flexibility becomes rare. You sense pressure without an obvious source. A low, constant friction in everyday life. A feeling that something essential has become harder to hold on to. The most effective forms of loss never arrive all at once. They unfold slowly, politely, disguised as normal conditions. So subtle that you're expected to adapt rather than question, to compensate rather than confront, to internalize the strain as personal adjustment. And the moment you start thinking something is off, the story truly begins. What you're experiencing is not randomness, it follows a pattern. Money is often treated as a neutral tool. In practice, it functions as stored effort. Each unit earned represents time already exchanged, energy already spent, work already completed. When the value of that unit changes, the meaning of past effort changes with it. Inflation operates through this quiet adjustment. It does not remove money directly. It reduces what existing money can command. The process rarely feels immediate. It unfolds gradually, across months and years. Prices respond first, then rent, then the cost of simply maintaining the same life. The shift often goes unnoticed at the beginning. Life still looks familiar, transactions still occur, but each unit of money begins to carry less weight than before. History shows this pattern repeating across civilizations. Altering money has always been easier than confronting citizens directly. Coins were once reduced in metal content. Their shape remained the same, their appearance unchanged. Only later did people realize that effort now purchased less. Modern systems use different instruments. The distance between creation and consequence is wider. The effect is identical. New money enters circulation without a corresponding increase in real value. Existing money absorbs the dilution. The change does not arrive evenly. It settles first into necessities, housing, food, energy, areas where substitution is difficult. Because cause and effect are separated by time, the pressure feels ambient rather than imposed. No single decision explains the outcome. No single actor appears responsible. What remains is a steady erosion of purchasing power. Quiet enough to normalize, persistent enough to reshape daily life. This is the mechanism beneath the surface. Not a failure of effort, not a lapse in discipline, a structural shift in how value is measured and stored. The most significant cost does not appear on a receipt. It appears in how life is approached. When stability becomes less reliable, behavior changes quietly, not through decision, through adaptation. Attention shifts toward the short term, not because vision disappears, but because the future feels less dependable. Planning becomes cautious, margins become central. Risk feels heavier than it once did. Effort continues, but its emotional meaning changes. Work begins to feel like maintenance rather than advancement. Progress becomes harder to sense. Saving requires more restraint for less reassurance. Spending feels more consequential, even when necessary. Every choice carries additional weight. This creates a steady background tension, low-level, persistent, rarely acknowledged. The mind responds by conserving energy. Long-term ambitions narrow. Expectations adjust downward to remain realistic. This adjustment does not signal defeat. It signals intelligence responding to altered conditions. When the future feels uncertain, the brain prioritizes immediacy. Distant rewards lose clarity. Near-term concerns dominate attention. Over time, this reshapes identity. People begin to define success more modestly. Aspirations are delayed rather than abandoned. The shift is subtle. It does not feel imposed. It feels personal. And because it unfolds gradually, it rarely registers as something happening to you, only as something you are expected to manage. The cost accumulates quietly, not as panic, as fatigue. A sense that more effort is required just to hold position, that movement no longer guarantees distance covered. This is how a financial mechanism becomes a psychological environment, how pressure embeds itself into daily thinking, not through fear, through repetition. Systems like this endure through familiarity. What becomes routine fades into the background. What feels constant stops drawing attention. Daily life adjusts around the pressure. Prices change, costs rise, expectations recalibrate. Over time, the environment begins to feel fixed. The forces shaping these conditions operate far from everyday decisions. They are set through incentives, policies, and structures discussed in technical language. That distance matters. When causes feel remote, outcomes feel inevitable. When outcomes feel inevitable, questioning slows. Language plays a role here. Complex terms soften impact. Neutral framing dulls urgency. Changes are presented as conditions to manage rather than choices to examine. Responsibility spreads outward until it feels abstract. Attention shifts toward coping. Energy goes into adjustment. Life continues forward under narrower margins. The pressure becomes individualized. Each person absorbs it privately. Each household recalculates alone. Without shared language, there is no shared recognition. Without recognition, there is no coordinated response. The system requires no belief to function. It moves forward through habit. As long as daily life remains workable, even tighter, even more fragile, momentum holds. People adapt, plans compress, expectations align with constraints. Over time, the altered conditions feel normal. What once felt temporary settles into permanence. This is how the mechanism sustains itself, quietly, consistently, through repetition rather than force, through accommodation rather than confrontation. What you felt all along was accurate. When effort delivers less stability than it once did, something fundamental has shifted. Not in you, in the system surrounding you. Inflation works as a silent tax. It reduces the value of time already given, energy already spent, and plans made in good faith. Because it happens quietly, people respond by working harder, planning tighter, and absorbing more pressure. That response isn't failure, it's adaptation. The real damage came from silence, from never being shown why life began to feel narrower, even as effort increased. Now that silence is broken. What once felt confusing reveals itself as pattern. What once felt personal reveals itself as structural. The future no longer feels like something closing in. It becomes something you can navigate deliberately. Dreams don't disappear under inflation. They require clearer positioning. The silent tax only works while it remains unnamed. Now it has a name. And once something is named, it loses the power to quietly decide what feels possible. If this put words to something you've sensed for a long time, comment yes. And if you want to keep learning how to see the systems shaping your life before they quietly shape your choices, subscribe. Understanding doesn't change the world overnight. It restores the future to people who thought they'd lost it.